Let's talk about something that actually drives every small business owner, every content creator pretty much nuts. And that's getting totally buried in social media data or just metrics. So today I'm going to actually show you how to take that huge pile of social media metrics and actually turn it into something super clear, really a content strategy that you can actually manage in just about 30 minutes a month. And yes, I said 30 minutes a month, and I'm serious. We're going to turn that data into something that's more simplistic and just easier for you to manage throughout the month. So, the problem that I tend to see is that there is more of this feeling of data fatigue. Does this look familiar to you? Let me know in the comments. So you can open up your analytics dashboard, whether it's either in Instagram, in LinkedIn, in YouTube, and whatever platform you're using. I actually currently use a tool called Vista Social, and it's just sometimes looking like a wall of numbers. And so it could be in like charts, percentages, and you're just staring at it thinking like, what am I even supposed to do with this? And so when you start to get into this more of like overwhelming feeling, that's when it becomes more of just feeling like you're collecting data and numbers instead of really knowing what to do with it, because that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to look at our numbers. So when we're done, it's still chaos. We're not moving from that old way of thinking of more data or more data to a new way of thinking around clarity and focus, and just, can we say it's simplicity? So the goal isn't for you to create a bigger spreadsheet or utilizing way more tools than you need to, or doing things more manual than you need to. It's to make smarter decisions with the time you actually have. So I don't know if anyone else is feeling it like me. We just don't have it. So today, what I want to actually go through with you is a simple framework, because none of us have time for that. That is going to allow you to create this simple and repeatable way of how to actually do it. It's all about simplicity. If you haven't been with me here on the channel before, it's all about this creating a process that takes you from messy data, the messy numbers, to clear direction every single month. So there are really three core pillars that I want you to think about with this. So when I say simple, if it's too complicated, you won't do it. And I work one-on-one consulting small business owners, or even hosting intimate events and having conversations where the goal is really to reduce the friction, because when there is friction between what you need to do and the steps you need to do in between it, let's face it, we won't do it. Or maybe I'm just speaking for myself. Let me know in the comments. But the other part of that is thinking about repeatability. So this is more so where we think of it becoming a habit. And if you're anything like me, habits don't get formed overnight. So something that I'm even realizing for myself is I used to be able to kind of do a bit more habit stacking, but now I realize that even I need to just make it sometimes even simpler and more digestible. And if it's say, a 6-step thing, maybe this week I focus on getting step 1 down and then moving into the next ones each week. So for me, one of the things is getting into capturing my ideas and thoughts in a central place so that I'm not creating on the fly. The next part that I want you to think about in this particular framework is decision focused. So this is the huge one. This is where we aren't winning awards, take your cape off for the most impressive report. We're actually finding a path forward. So this is where the clarity and you've gone through the process of analyzing the metrics. You're creating those repeatable. First of all, you made it simple. And then now you're creating those repeatable habits or steps. And then you're also now using it to make clearer decisions. So after you now go through this framework, now you're able to create this easy, simple, repeatable process. So when I also thought about doing this video, I said, well, the perfect case study is myself and our business, which is Virtually Centered Solutions. So we'll get into number 2 here, where I call it like the less is more revelation. So it looks pretty much wild to even say it, but for the last 3 months, I analyzed our business, Virtually Centered Solutions, and looked at the results. And over the 3 months, the total number of posts that we were actually producing went down by almost 28%. And when I say we, I did have a larger team that was helping. I was outsourcing some of the support for content creation, but right now it's been me as I figure out the transition and assistant if needed. I say all that to say that the total number of posts went down by almost 28%. And you would think that less content, of course, means less time creating, but you also usually think like, uh-oh, the algorithm is about to get her. It is about to punish them, right? Because the big bad algorithm, we would say, is coming for us, but wrong. At the exact same time as I was reviewing those metrics, I realized that my total engagement actually shot up by 73%. And I forgot to mention that I actually don't go one by one into each platform pulling data. I actually use a tool called Vista Social, which I have linked all the platforms that I produce content on, and it compiles a monthly report that I have scheduled that gets sent to me. So the key takeaway is it's not about volume. For me, it was seeing the impact that the content was making. And if this is also for you, this is your official permission slip to stop trying to do everything all the time. Hashtag all the things, right? And so the next point I'd like to get into is, now that we've looked at the metrics more so for myself and then also for you, if you are going along with this with me, I realized that data now allowed me to get direction. And this is where the why comes into play. This is where now I can assign roles to the platforms that we are creating marketing content for. This allows me to really think through, how did less effort lead to that 73% increase in engagement. So when I think back to the past 3 months, I was more in this mind frame of giving the platforms a specific job. So for me, I am across multi-platform. Currently, LinkedIn is, it is more of that professional platform, but I do share some personal as well. But what I realized is more for nurturing high value clients, whereas YouTube's job for me was more of the discovery engine for new audiences. I've experienced, people, finding our videos on through Google, through YouTube searches, and then being able to come into our ecosystem. Also with Instagram, that became more of a place for me to build community and trust. I shared a little bit differently there. And I realized, I was kikiing with y'all. I let my hair down, and it was just more of that space for me to not be so one-dimensional. And so once I realized that these were the specific roles that I was giving each platform, it felt like I more so stopped spraying and praying. You probably heard that term. Let me know if you haven't in the chat. You've probably heard that in marketing before, spray and pray method. But this also allowed me to realize that people didn't want the polish, which I kind of knew that already. So if you've ever been with me on the channel before, I love to say like Professor T comes in the building. And it's not on purpose. It's just that sometimes that, there's this saying that sometimes when the camera's on or you're in certain settings, you don't mean to, but you perform. You might get a little bit robotic or, a little bit more serious, but that's not me in real life. And so what I realized is people wanted the real. They wanted the authentic experiences, like literally me having busy weeks and forgetting to water my plants or like something crazy like that. But needless to say that this allowed me to shift my mindset and create really more of a clear action plan. When I think of, really this whole content creation phase, the data actually showed me what was actually good. And the problem wasn't a lack of direction. So the problem was actually lack of direction. So the funny thing is, like, people would watch or they would read, and then nothing. What the specific prompts that I used as far as analyzing my social media metrics plus the analytics coming in from Vista Social. And let me know in the comments if you like to see the prompts that I used. And actually, if you want me to go a little bit deeper behind the scenes of Vista Social, I could also do that in a future video. But what that information helped me to do was they weren't being, people were engaging or reading or watching videos, but they weren't being guided to the next step. So actually what it helped me to do is build really an action plan for the next month going forward. And let's face it, the best plans usually don't start with adding on more things. They start with, what are you going to stop doing? And so for me, I had to get realistic with myself and say that I'm going to stop posting where nobody's listening. Really, that's just splitting my energy across too many platforms, and not allowing me to engage in the way that I'd like to. So I'm going to stop creating content without also a call to action, which where if you heard me previous or just a little bit before this, I was saying that they didn't have a clear path. They didn't know kind of like what the next step was. And so that allowed me to analyze it a bit further. And now when I move into the next month, and this is how, you're building out this monthly rhythm, you're utilizing these prompts and the data to then go back and create this game plan. So for me, what I realized is this high impact 30-minute monthly rhythm looks like for me after analyzing the data in my ecosystem is possibly 2 to 3 short videos pulled straight from my real life, things that are actually happening, 2 thoughtful posts, maybe like in that leadership authority, specifically for LinkedIn, and 1 core idea captured, because in my particular role as a trainer and workshop facilitator, I am actually out and about engaging and actually doing one-on-one consultations and engaging with business owners. And that is the actual work with clients. And so I wasn't really sharing that a bit much before. So that's the whole list. The guide really is by this ease first rule. And if you aren't analyzing you're not able to decide clearly what's next. And so if you've ever attended a training workshop with me before, if you ever interacted with me in IRL or in real life, as they say, you'll know that I love to always leave you with, it's great to consume information, but be ready to like take action. So with that in mind, it leaves me to have you think about like, what's the one thing you should stop doing next month? And when I say stop doing next month, I'm specifically talking about content. And so you don't need more content, you need clearer direction inside the content you're already creating. I want you to really stop getting in this scrambling to fill what they consider a content calendar, and start being an authority who guides your audience. So here's my question for you. So based on your numbers, what is the one thing you should probably stop doing next month? So go ahead, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Let me know what you can cut to free up energy for what actually moves the needle. So this answer is actually hiding in your analytics. It's hiding in the data and the metrics. So let me know what you're cutting in the comments. And as always, I'm cheering you on. Love y'all. Bye.